Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are watching us from. This is your host, Esther, on our Q&A platform. It is always a pleasure for me to come back and be able to interact with you, to be able to build one another. So it is good that you are on this platform, and as I always encourage you, keep interacting with us, interact with the comment section, interact in my inbox, reach me out, even if it is personally, you are most welcome. I want us to continue, and as we said earlier, we shall be dwelling a lot on mental health issues because these are things that are real, kwa ground, and they are things that are affecting our lives on a daily basis. And for that reason, I find it fit for us to come and talk about it. As I told you earlier, is that this is a platform where you feel free, it is a safe space. You can always come in with your questions. If you have anything personal that you would want assistance on, please do not hesitate. This is your home, this is your space, this is your ground, this is your place. So allow me to continue, and we are still on the mental health matters. And this afternoon, I want us to talk about what is self-harm. Someone asked this question, and it is good for us to answer him. So come, let us move together, let us share, and let us get educated and, of course, get informed. What is self-harm and what are the possible causes? What is self-harm and what are the possible causes? Self-harm, I would say, self-harm is the act of inflicting pain on oneself. The act of inflicting pain on oneself, and more than often, it is usually physical pain. And what kind of pain, or how do people inflict pain on themselves? There are people who cut themselves. They cut maybe their hand, they cut their chest, they cut their thighs. So they inflict pain through cutting, scratching. You scratch until you bleed. Yeah. Things like burning the skin. Some people burn with cigarettes, some people burn with matchboxes. Burning is also another way. Punching. We have seen people either punching themselves or other people punching walls. I know some of these concepts or some of these things, you've seen them somewhere probably, that somebody is so furious or angry or affected until they start to punch walls. Some other people pull off their hair. They keep pulling their hair, and other people they swallow poisonous substances, in a way just to make sure that they're inflicting pain. There are people who find themselves in drug overdose. It is also another way of self-harm. There are people who turn to alcohol. They drink without control. They drink without limit. They drink and drink and drink until they are like DDOs. Like it's just a matter of drinking. So those are some of the way that people harm themselves. Okay. So the question also asked, what are the possible causes? And this is what I want to note, is that there is no specific reason as to why somebody would want to harm themselves. So there is nothing that would say this is what causes. However, people still do, and there are some common factors that lead to this. There are some common factors that make people engage in self-harming activities. Some of them is, I would say, when somebody or an individual who have had ACE to mean advanced childhood experiences or traumas, and they get triggers, So I would say it is when a person who had ACE has triggers, or it's triggered. Some people who have had past traumatic experiences, sometimes there are triggers that would make them, or bring back the memories, and they feel helpless. They get to a point of starting to inflict harm. Some of these people probably have grown up in an environment that is abusive. They have had such extreme experiences. There is a tendency, or it has been noted, to be a cause or to be a factor that makes some of the people want to harm themselves. And this is specifically when these issues are unresolved issues. There has been an issue, it was not resolved. The person is more likely to engage in such behavior. Okay. So what are these triggers? some of the triggers that can make somebody who has had this experience to want to harm themselves is like arguments. You know, when they see arguments, they freak out, and what they tend to do is to harm themselves. There are other people, when they get bullied, they have been bullied before, it was traumatic, and therefore they end up harming themselves, they end up engaging in self-harm activities. Other people, it's lack of money, and I think this has become very, very common. Some people have got experiences when they were growing up, living or growing up in extreme poverty, and this is why you see people saying, I would rather die in a near Airbnb rather than date and you know, a broke man. I mean, this person has got such a freak, such a fear for poverty because of the experiences they have gone through, and therefore you realize that, by the way, even some of these things that probably we don't term as self-harming activities, it's like what is happening currently in our country. You realize that people have seen, it is out there, it is in the common knowledge of everyone that people are dying in these Airbnbs, but you still find people who are saying, huyo ni yeye, I'll still go on. They do not stop to think. They feel the poverty that I have grown in is worse than this death in this kind of circumstances. So that is another cause. Or rather, that is another trigger. Some others, there are things that happen involuntarily, especially when we have some individuals who get sensory overload, and especially those who have neurological developmental challenges. I hope you got that. I'll repeat. Sensory overload for individuals with neurological developmental challenges is likely to bring self-harm. An example I would give is individuals with autism. You know, people who have autism or living with autism have got extreme or very hypersensitive sensories, like be it to sound, be it to taste, be it to visuals. And some of these, when they get sensory overloaded and they can't help themselves, they will end up hitting themselves, rolling on the floor. I remember once I worked with a very beautiful young girl. Unfortunately, anytime she got sensory overload, she would pull her braids and remove them. You can imagine what kind of pain. She would slap herself. She made sure she had so many marks on the hands, on the thighs, because she always harmed herself. At times, she would even take a pencil or a sharp object, like you know, any sharp object that she would come across, and start cutting her skin. Why? Because of sensory overload. So that would be also be a cause, and it is not voluntary. It is something that needs support, or somebody needs to be helped through. All right. So what do I want to tell you? I want to tell you that there are causes, there are factors that contribute to that, but there are no known causes, or there are no specific reasons why people self-harm. Yes, it affects them, it affects the environment, it affects the people around them, it affects, you know, their lives, but there is no specific cause. So kindly allow me to stop there for today, and until next time, bye.